Hi everyone. Back again. It's been a couple weeks because of snow days and break and everything, so it's time to get back into the swing of things. So we are getting back into the colonies, colonial period. Last week in class, last week we talked about the New England colonies. Um, and then this week we talked about Martin Luther King, obviously because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And next week we're going to get back into it. We're going to start talking about the middle colonies. So the last time we had one of these videos, we were talking about the Dutch and French settlements. So this kind of leads into that. We're talking about the same colonies, that same area of the United States. So we'll take a look at our lesson, and pretty simply, like I said, the middle colonies is what we're looking at. So see it up here, top middle colonies. And the period we're looking from is 1664 to 1723. So this is just before the Revolutionary War, about 50 years before is the up to the time period we're talking about. So here we have, I'll start reading the words we're looking for today. Proprietor, representative, and treaty. Oops. And so, like normal, what we're going to do is we are going to select either one vocab word for our assignment, one of these highlighted bold words, or one thing that we did not know, one thing that we learned that we thought was interesting that stood out to us from the chapter. So I will start reading this section right here, New York and New Jersey. So try and follow along with me. English settlement of the Middle Colonies began in 1664, when England captured the Dutch colony of New Netherland. So we talked about this a few weeks ago, about how the English actually took over the Dutch colonies. And they remember New York was the name of New York was not originally New York. It was changed to New York in honor of the Duke of York. So the King of England gave this colony to his brother James, the Duke of York. James became the colony's proprietor. So here's one of our vocab words. Let's go ahead and highlight that. So a proprietor was a person who owned and controlled all the land in a colony. As proprietor of New Netherland, James could do what he liked with the land. He kept part of the large colony and changed its name to New York. He gave the rest to two friends, John Berkeley and George Carteret. Berkeley and Carteret divided the land into two colonies and named them East Jersey and West Jersey. In 1702, the colonies joined to form New Jersey. Starting here. The proprietors of New York and New Jersey all wanted to make money from their colonies. They decided to divide the fertile land into smaller pieces and sell or rent the pieces to colonists to farm. Because proprietors lived in England, it was difficult for them to control their fairway property. The solution was to pick governors in the colonies to rule them. Each governor chose a small group of people called a council to help make important decisions. The proprietors also allowed colonists to elect representatives to an assembly. A representative is someone who is chosen to speak and act for others. The assembly helped the governor and the council make laws, but it did not have much power. Even so, the assembly was an important step toward self-government. Pennsylvania and Delaware, so we're right here. Oh, we missed a word, I'm sorry, let's go back. So let's talk about a representative. So the proprietors also allowed colonists to elect a representative to an assembly. So a representative is someone who is chosen to speak and act for others. So this is a lot like a representative that we have now in the Congress or the Senate. we elect one person to speak for all of us, and they're supposed to keep our interests in mind. So it's the same thing. A representative, someone who is chosen to speak and act for others. So they speak for a lot of people, and they're chosen for whatever reason, because they're qualified or people feel like they trust them or that they're going to be a good advocate for their needs. So let's jump back to Pennsylvania and Delaware. So the colony of Pennsylvania was the idea of William Penn. In England, Penn was a member of a religious group called the Society of Friends, or Quakers. Quakers believed that all Christians should be free to worship in their own way. Penn and many Quakers were put in jail for their beliefs. Some were even killed. In England, everyone was supposed to belong to the Church of England. So we've been talking about this. We talked a lot about this last week, how in England, everyone was supposed to belong to the Church of England. So Penn hoped to start a colony where all Christians could live together in peace. So again, we have another group, just like we talked about last week with the Pilgrims. We have another group coming here to start religious freedom, to find a place where they can practice their own religion, because they do not belong to the Church of England. Penn hoped to start a colony where all Christians could live together in peace. In North America, he thought there might be a place for such a holy experiment. In 1681, Penn's wish came true. King Charles II had owed money to Penn's family. The king repaid Penn by giving him a large piece of land in the Middle Colonies. The region was called Pennsylvania, which means Penn's Woods. The Duke of York later gave Penn even more land. For a time, this land was part of Pennsylvania, but later it became the colony of Delaware. So, in Pennsylvania, Penn created laws that allowed colonists to voice their opinions and worship freely. Penn also let colonists elect representatives to an assembly, as colonists did in New York and New Jersey. The Pennsylvania Assembly, however, had more power. It could approve or reject laws that the governor and his council suggested. Penn treated American Indians with respect. He tried to understand their culture and wanted colonists to live with them as equals. Penn made fair treaties with the Delaware, or Lenape Indians, when he bought land from them. A treaty is an official agreement between nations or groups. So let's remember that word. A treaty is an official agreement between nations or groups. Penn's fairness helped Pennsylvania colonists and Indians live together peacefully for many years. Philadelphia. William Penn did more than give Pennsylvania colonists a representative government. He also planned the colony's first large city, Philadelphia. For the location of Philadelphia, Penn chose a site where the Delaware and Schuylkill rivers meet. Ships bringing goods from other colonies and from Europe could land in the excellent harbor formed by these rivers. Penn designed wide, straight roads that made it easy to travel throughout the city. During the 1700s, Philadelphia became a center of trade. Soon, it was one of the largest cities in all of the colonies. Benjamin Franklin was Philadelphia's most famous citizen. He moved from Boston to Philadelphia in 1723. There, Franklin bought his own printing press. Franklin published a newspaper and a popular book of stories, jokes, and sayings called Poor Richard's Almanac. One of his well-known sayings is, "Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise." Franklin had many other interests too. He helped start Philadelphia's first public library, fire company, and hospital. He was also a talented scientist and inventor. In a famous experiment, he flew a kite in a lightning storm to show that lightning was a form of electricity. He invented a wood stove, a clock, and many other useful things. Franklin became famous for his many achievements. So, let's take a look at the lesson summary right here, real quick, and then we'll finish it up. Proprietors owned the middle colonies. William Penn founded Pennsylvania as a place where colonists had religious freedom. Philadelphia became the biggest city in the British colonies, and Benjamin Franklin was its most famous citizen. So, after listening to this, I'd like you to go ahead and either write one of the vocab words in its meaning. There were 3 of them this week, or one thing that you didn't know. There was a lot of information in this. There was a lot of people introduced: John Berkeley, George Carteret, Benjamin Franklin, William Penn. So maybe you learned something about those people that you didn't know before. You could write about that. There's a number of things. So take some time to do that this weekend. This will be due when you come to school on Tuesday. So go ahead, work on it this weekend. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday. So have a good weekend.